Alrighty. Hey everybody. Boy, it's been a long week and here we are starting late at 1:40 again. Well, not again. We didn't start at 1:40 last time, but just been really hectic just trying to get off of tickets and then jump over here. It's been a little difficult, but anyways, we're here and we have started. And today we're going to be talking about, getting a little bit of comfortable with buying some hardware and learning what it takes to get the right hardware and what you need to do to learn about what you need in hardware that you're thinking about purchasing. Just that may have been a little jumbled, so I'm just going to say that one more time because yes, in the beginning of the streams I'm always a little bit jumbled. I don't know why, but yes, today we're talking about how to buy hardware. That's pretty much what we're talking about. What to consider when making any purchases with hardware. We're going to leave software out of it today and we're just going to focus on hardware. So when I say hardware, I mean thinking about what you need in a new computer, in a new laptop, in a new desktop computer, in a new mouse, in a new keyboard, in a new headset, in a new microphone, in a new webcam, in a external hard drive, in a USB drive, in a flash drive, sorry. And all of those are considered hardware that you are more commonly familiar with. And it's always important to think of a couple of guidelines whenever purchasing any piece of hardware. You don't always just want to buy something because it's cheaper. That's usually the primary goal for a lot of us here, is to make sure that we're getting something the best bang for our buck, or in some cases just something really cheap. Because we always kind of veer off of best bang for your buck. In truth, best bang for your buck really means that you're getting the maximum quality for the money, for the least amount of money, which is a really good place to be. You just got to make sure that you're not cutting back on spending that will eventually result in you having to buy a new piece of hardware, which would just make the original purchase kind of obsolete and pointless, which you don't want, because then you ended up spending twice as much money as you needed to because you tried to save a little bit too much. So it's always better, in my opinion, to go a little bit above what you thought you should spend, or what the cheapest model would be, just to go a little bit above it, because quality over the low price is always something you should consider. I grew up with a famous saying that my great grandmother always used to tell me is, good things are not cheap and cheap things are not good. And that's not really the best statement to live by, but it does come into play a lot of times with most of the things that I buy in my life. I've realized that I've saved a lot of money buying some really cheap things, and then realized that in about a year I have to replace those cheap things, and I might as well have just bought the expensive thing that would have lasted me 2 or 3 years. So you always are with a little bit of a hit or miss whenever you're doing stuff like that, or purchasing any hardware products or even software products. But software, then again, is a little bit easier to buy. If you're getting something cheap in software and you're getting everything you need out of the software, trust me, that's the way to go. But with hardware that has, deterioration over time, every piece of hardware deteriorates over time the more it is used. It's just how these things are developed. They have inside of them, it has certain circuitry that gets worn down as it gets used. So you want to make sure you're buying something that has really good quality, but then you also don't want to make sure you're overspending. So a good consideration when buying anything is to develop a list of the things that you are going to be using it for. Determining your use cases for anything you do, and not even just buying hardware, is a really good starting point to make sure that whatever you're doing to complement or to satisfy those use cases is the right fit for you. There's no point in, if you have 6 use cases for something and then you realize that the product that's really cheap is only going to satisfy 4, that should raise a red flag to let you know that you shouldn't buy that cheaper product just because it is cheaper. It's not going to satisfy everything that you need, and there's no point in you just having 4 out of the 6 tasks completed when you really needed the 6 out of 6 and could have spent maybe, I don't know, $10, $20 more depending on what it is you're purchasing, or even double in some cases for the lower end products, or the smaller priced products. And for that reason, it's going to satisfy everything that you need, and you'll never have to look at it like, oh well, I just bought something and I can do almost everything I needed to do. That is just not going to cut it. And you should never live your life like that. You should always be developing your use cases and making sure that whatever you're buying or whatever you're doing in your life is satisfying the things that you've already outlined that you need. It's almost like thinking about setting goals in your life. You want to do this by this time, by that. you got to make sure that whatever it is you want to get, you want to be a millionaire by the time you're 50, you can't just sit around and wait till you're 50. You have to develop the list of stuff that you have to do in order to reach that goal. And it's a similar thing with buying hardware. You're going to develop a list that you're going to need to satisfy in order to get your final task done, or to improve your efficiency, improve your productivity, whatever that the case may be. So I'm going to start with something a little bit smaller. I'm going to start with, I don't know, let's say exactly what I have right here, a microphone. So you're going to want to make sure that you're not, it depends exactly on what you're doing. So if you're into audio design, audio development, and you're dealing with creating music and creating writing songs and singing songs or anything like that, you're going to want to make sure you're getting a high quality mic. You're not going to want to get something that's lower quality because of the price, because it's going to appear, it's going to be really it's going to shine through when you hear the quality of the sound that is being developed in your music. So write down the list of the things that you want. I want to have high quality sound in my songs. I want to have, I want to make sure there's less muffling. I want to make sure that I can move my mic around as easy as I want to. Well, look, you just developed a list of 3 things. So far from those that list of those 3 things, first thing you're going to have to look at is what makes a good quality microphone. So a good quality microphone would be, how much, I think it's how much decibels it can input. So whatever, however you're speaking, how much it can sound, it can absorb, as well as you're going to want to consider, I'm not really an audio expert, so it's going to be harder for me to do this one. Maybe I shouldn't have started with there. But yes, there's certain things that you're going to have to look for when buying a high quality microphone. And a good way to judge that is maybe, let's compare 2 microphones, one really expensive one and one really cheap one. So let's see. Or you can just start with a really easy way to find these things, guys, is type in best microphones for recording audio. Vocals. Yeah, vocals would be a good one. So you're going to see some, and there's some really good brands such as Blue Yeti. I've heard of the Yeti. They make quite a few, and these are good quality. Of course, if you start getting into like American music and these ones here, they're going to get really expensive. But if you want something that, you're at home and you're creating your own music, well, you're going to start with something that's relatively lower priced. But you're not going to want to get this microphone. Even though this microphone may be okay to start mediocre songs and recording some vocals and stuff like that, this microphone only costs $50 and is really primarily useful for recording audio for videos and stuff like that. Now, if you're recording that, and that is something you got to consider too, because if you're recording audio for just a video, the video plays a big part in compensating for any disadvantages the audio would bring. However, if you're only hearing, someone's only hearing you and they're not seeing you, they're really depending on having high quality audio. So you're going to have to consider that when doing it. So let's look at this. So you have a Blue Yeti USB. Now we've just thought about, there's multiple things that you have to consider. You have to consider, do you want this to be portable? Do you want this to be Bluetooth? Do you want this to be connected? Now, if you want high quality vocals, I'm obviously going to recommend that you have it so that it is, so you're going to have it so that it is plugged in. Any Bluetooth device that you're using is going to have some level of latency, and when I say latency, I mean that it's going to have some sort of delay in recording, and you want things to be as quick as possible, and wired connections are always better. This guy here is wired connection, so that way it provides me with a better audio input. So that is some of the stuff that you got to consider. Develop your list and start comparing products. Looking at reviews is also very useful. This guy here has over 395 reviews and is 5 stars. Obviously it's very good, but it is quite costly. Now Amazon may be able to provide you with an even better one. This is under $700. You can look at all of these ones here. You have a Shure, which is a normal one, a Rode, which is similar to the ones that we just saw, another Shure, a Schneider. All of these ones here, you may be able to find ones that are very comparison, but using a good quality microphone as like the basis of what you need is a good way to start. You're always going to want to look at and then look at the really good ones and then work your way down. That's the truth. You're not going to want to spend $4,000 or $5,000 on a microphone, or maybe you do. And if that is the case, then we're really entering a new level. But I'm going to stick on microphones because I really don't understand audio. I don't know why I started there. I just was holding it and I thought that would be a good idea. But clearly not. So let's move on to something that I'm a little bit more familiar with. Now, let's think about keyboards and mice. keyboards and mouse. Keyboards and mice. So when purchasing a keyboard or a mouse, there's some things you need to consider. You're going to write, what are you using this keyboard for? Are you using this keyboard for an iPad? Are you using this keyboard for a monitor, a desktop computer? Or do you want to have a laptop that you can set to stay on when it's closed down, and you have an external monitor and you need a wireless keyboard? That's the thing. Do you want it wired or wireless? Now guys, remember what I told you. Anything wireless can have a certain level of latency. Of course, a keyboard and a mouse isn't going to be that drastic depending on what you're doing. If you're morely into, if you're doing gaming and stuff like that, then that's going to be a big hard hitter. You're going to want to have everything wired because there's that speed, that instantaneous connection, no reliance on any Bluetooth or any infrared technology. You're just relying on that cord that is running directly to that USB. Now, if you're just looking for mice separately and just looking for a good mouse, you're going to want to think about what is it that you really want. Do you want to have a mouse that has a bunch of buttons on the sides that you can set to have different commands to do different things? Or do you just want a plain wireless mouse? If you want it wireless, you got to accept the fact that there may be a level of latency, nothing too severe, especially if you're just, using a computer normally. You'll never notice that latency. And then you're going to want to consider, let's see, the brand that you're going to be purchasing. Do you have any trusted brands that you're familiar with? Logitech makes really good mice. If you really want to upgrade and get to something really crazy, there's like Razer mice, which are more for the gaming side but have really good quality and don't have to be used just for gaming. But either way, you're developing a list of the things that you want to use it for, and then whatever product you're getting, you're always going to compare that to that list to make sure that you are satisfying each and every single use case. You're not going to want to cut down on your use cases. That's why I always say develop the list first before you go searching, because you'll start to realize if you do that, look for stuff and then develop your list, you're developing a biased list. Develop the list of use cases that you're going to be using these products for before you start looking for it. So you've decided that you want a wireless mouse. You want it to have just a mouse. You don't want a keyboard and mouse combo, which exists because that limits, which would also cause it to limit the number of USB ports you need, since the combos only require one USB port, which is really cool, but it is wireless. Of course, it can't be wired. Actually, I don't know if they have wired combos, to be honest. I don't think they would. Sounds a little bit ridiculous, but yes. So you're going to want to look at that. If you want it wireless, if you want it wired, if you want buttons on the side, if you just want a left, right click and a scroll, if you want something for comfort, you are complaining about suffering from a lot of issues, maybe even have carpal tunnel. So start looking for things that would help satisfy that. Good mice for people with carpal tunnel, good mice for people with arthritis. These are all things that you're going to want to develop your list for because they help with your research. Now, I can't point out to you the exactly what you need right now unless you have that list. If you were to give me a list of the things of the same use case list that I'm telling you to develop now, I would do the research for you and help find that. But you just got to do that first because no one knows what you need better than yourself. So that's one way to look at it. Now we're going to go into the keyboards. Now what do you want? Do you want a full-size keyboard? Do you want a keyboard without a number pad? Like for instance, this guy that I'm using right now has both. There you go. Has both the character side as well as a number pad on the right. Do you just want the character side? Do you just want half a keyboard if you're interested in gaming and don't need all the characters? They do exist. Do you want a small one? Do you want a rollout keyboard? Do you want one for your iPad? Do you want one for your monitor? Do you want one for your laptop even? You want an external keyboard because you don't like the keyboard on your laptop because it has the trackpad in front of it? All of those things are stuff that you're going to have to consider whenever deciding to purchase any piece of hardware. Next is, of course I mentioned the combo. If you want to get a combo, Logitech, you got to look for brands that make very good combos. Now guys, I'm always focused, I'm a stickler for reviews. Whatever product you find after you've built this list that is starting to satisfy your list, and you find one that satisfies it in almost entirely, make sure you look at the reviews. It may sometimes be just too good to be true that it is satisfying all of your use cases, and the quality of it just isn't there. So always look for reviews, and if you can't find a review, just be aware that you may be purchasing something that may not fit the needs that you really need it to. You will be taking a gamble on it because you have no other anybody's experience or input on it. But at the end of the day, you'll always see, no matter what product you're buying, you'll always see some 1-star reviews and some 5-star reviews. So don't knock anything because it has 1-star reviews. It may have a plethora more of 3, 4, and 5-star reviews, which can help compensate for that. So don't only depend on reading the 1-star reviews. I found myself being in that situation up to not too long ago, where I'd always not want to purchase anything because I was looking at the 1-star reviews, and you need to realize that sometimes that is just luck of the draw. But other than that, back to the keyboards. When you're purchasing this keyboard, look for, do you want a keyboard with a backlight, something that has lights in it so that, you work in the dark, you want to be able to see all your keys. Consider that. Write this down in the list, your use cases. Do you want the keyboard with the mount, with the number pad and the character pad? Do you want just the character pad? Do you want a backlight? Do you want multiple lights? Do you want the keyboard to be color coded? Do you want the keyboard to be wired? Do you want the combo? Do you want it to be wireless? These are all things that you need to include in your list. Now, that's how you would deal with the more smaller peripherals. Actually, we forgot USB flash drives and external drives. Hard drive, sorry. So, to get into that, hold on, let me take a sip of water because I've been talking. So, what you're going to need to do is consider, when you're getting into flash drives and secondary storage devices such as external hard drives, is first look at the quality of the hard drive. Now, there's something called solid state drives compared to hard drives. Solid state drives, if you're buying any external hard drive, I highly, especially if you're planning to walk around with it, I highly recommend using a solid state drive because there's less moving parts. Now, well, there's actually no moving parts. This is why it's called solid. A hard disk drive has moving parts inside of it. When you hear the word disk, it's pretty much, if you can think about a recorder, not recorder, what do they put? A record player, sorry, a record player, where it has the record on top of it. It has the needle, the arm, the needle, everything that reads it, and it has to go through each track and each sector to play the record. It's the same thing with a hard disk drive, so it has moving parts. Now, with external hard drives that are maybe sitting on your desk, they can fall over, they could fall, they can do all these kind of stuff, and with those moving parts, they could be severely damaged and data could be corrupted or lost. And if you're using an external hard drive, most of the time you're putting a lot of sensitive information on it because you don't want it to be connected to the Wi-Fi. You just want to have it there as like a local storage device that you can use whenever you want to disconnect your computer from the Wi-Fi and jump on it and add stuff to it here and there. So if that's the case, you're not going to want to get a hard disk drive. Solid state drives will cost more, but the security of knowing that it is one solid drive and there's no moving parts, so that if it was to tip over, that it wouldn't be damaged. I'm not going to say that there's no guarantee. If you threw it across your room, yes, it will be damaged, but if it just took a slight tumble, way less chance of it getting corrupted or damaging the drive itself. So that's one thing you should include on the list. How portable is it? How sensitive is the data? If it's something that you're just getting a small thing to carry around, or just to have in a stationary spot that will not ever be moved, then yeah, you can go with a hard disk drive because you'll be able to get a plethora more of size options compared to if you're getting a solid state, because solid state drives do cost more per gigabyte. Speaking of gigabyte, that's the other thing that you got to include on your list is how much gigs do you need? Do you need 1 terabyte? Do you need 500 gigabytes? Do you need 2 terabytes? Do you need a large set of storage? You don't want to go ahead and thinking you're buying 500 gigs because you want to save money, and in reality you know that you're going to end up using a terabyte or 2 terabytes. If that's the case, you might as well get the 2 terabyte drive. Spend the money now, because if you don't, you're going to either have to, 1, buy another one, 2, upload everything to a cloud base and then start uploading new stuff, which would eliminate the purpose of having the external drive that's not connected to the internet. If that was your initial purpose, you wanted to have something that's holding your sensitive data. Yes, so that's those things to consider whenever getting an external drive. Is the size that you need, solid state versus hard drive state, or well, that's not hard drive state. Size of the hard drive or solid state drive, and then to choose between getting a hard drive or a solid state drive. Those are really the 2 primary things that you're going to need whenever purchasing external storage. That's the same kind of thing with flash drives. Flash drives are mostly solid state drives. You can get a SSD flash drive. That's just how most of them come nowadays, because they are intended to be portable. But another thing that comes to play is the size, whatever you're going to use it for. And then, you know, some of them come with even built-in security levels. So if you have sensitive data and you don't know how to secure it, some of them come with things to help secure your flash drives, are natural encryptions, which you can look into, encrypted flash drives, and which are very useful if you don't want to do the extra work of finding a way to encrypt your flash drive. So that's some of the stuff when you're thinking about peripheral devices or external devices. Well, we still want to talk about webcams too, but that's not, I really don't know a lot about visual capture. I only use this one here because it is Logitech and it was recommended. I also did a couple of, I would like to say maybe a week of research to finding out what was a really good webcam for streaming, and this was one of the top purchases for streaming. It's nothing really too much on the crazy side and nothing on the weak side. It is 1080p HD, which is something you're going to want to consider if you're purchasing any sort of webcam, is the input of whatever it is that you're recording. How is it going to look when it is outputted? How is it going to appear? What kind of, how many pixels are going to make up the video that it's capturing? Because 1080p is referring to the amount of pixels that will be captured or will be used to display whatever is being captured. My apologies. So that's what you have to use there. If you want it to be wired or wireless, I'm pretty sure most of them are wired, but there are a few that are wireless as well. Next would be headsets. Big things for headset when you're writing that list. Comfort. Comfort, comfort, comfort. This headset here gives me hell because it is, not that it is a bad quality. The microphone picks up a lot. The audio quality is great. It even cancels a lot of sound, which is the primary reason I now have this, because I was talking so loud because I couldn't hear myself in them. But the weight that it pulls, because it is quite heavy, the weight of this pulling down, even though this does have cushion right here underneath, causes a lot of tension on my head. And if you're going to be wearing a headset for 10 hours a day or 8 hours a day when you're at work, you're going to want to make sure that it's something that's 100% comfortable on your head. So that is a big thing to take into consideration. Is it comfortable? Look at reviews. Look at reviews that primarily focus on comfort. Don't worry too much about the audio quality of it, because most of the time, if you're getting one that is very comfortable, it has decent level audio input. Audio output. My apologies. So that's what to consider. You know, don't make the mistake that I did and get this Logitech G320. No, G230. Sorry. Maybe the G320 would be better. I actually think it is. But yes, comfort is a primary thing to look into. But I hope you guys are kind of getting the gist of what I mean when I tell you to write this list. Whatever product you're looking to buy, whatever piece of hardware you're looking to buy, your use case list and your expectations from whatever the device may be is important. If you don't develop that list prior to looking for devices, you're going to start making biased decisions that aren't going to satisfy everything you need. You're going to buy something and realize, oh wait, this doesn't do this. What's the point of me buying this? I have to take it back. Waste of time. Don't do that. Spend the 15-20 minutes developing the list of use cases, the things you expect from it, the things you want from it, and see what satisfies that list almost entirely. Don't cut back on primary things that you need. You may be able to come back on some secondary things that are in that list that you really don't need but wish for if you can't satisfy them. Find that level, that balance. There's no way I'm going to say that every single time you're going to write a list and find a device or a piece of hardware that's going to satisfy it wholeheartedly 100%. That's going to be quite difficult. But if you can get one that almost satisfies maybe 98% of your use cases, dude, you're in the clear. You're getting something that is going to make you very happy in the long run, as long as those reviews are still decent. Remember that, guys. Check reviews. Check reviews. Now, that is pretty much the primary for a lot of like the peripheral devices, a lot of the smaller devices, the keyboards, the mice, the headphones, the microphones, the USB flash drives, the hard disk external drives, the solid state external drives, and the webcams. But those are pretty much the easiest when you consider the big dollar sign. And the big dollar signs come from, you know, a desktop computer or a laptop computer. Now, we talked about this a lot, and I think next week we're going to talk about it, you know, deciding between mobility and if you need something that's mobile or if you need something that's portable. Now, having something portable requires you to need either, you know, some form of tablet, some form of smartphone, some laptop, because you need to be able to travel with it as you go. A desktop is not very easy to travel with. It is a larger piece of equipment, requires a monitor, requires a desk to use. You can't just pull it up and use it anywhere. iPads are even more simple than laptops nowadays because, and I say iPads, I mean tablets. My apologies. I'm not hating on Apple or nothing like that, but I don't want you guys to only think the only tablet out there is an iPad. There are plenty of other tablets out there that could satisfy your needs, but you got to write the list of the things you need before satisfying those needs. Remember that. So that, well, I nearly lost my train of thought there. Back to portability. So if you need something portable, a laptop or an iPad, a tablet is going to be the thing for you. So either a portable laptop or a portable tablet is what you're going to want. And tying back into what we talked about earlier with keyboards, if you're having a tablet, getting an external keyboard can really make that almost into a computer in itself. They are very smart devices, and they can become a computer with simply adding a keyboard and a mouse. It's almost primarily the same thing. So if you can, go ahead and do it. Now, if you need something that's not going to be portable and you want something with a lot of power, it's always easier to go with a desktop, because desktops, you will be able to get something almost twice as powerful as a laptop for half the price. It's funny. That portability really has a very high price point on it, but it makes sense. You know, you're paying for the comfort of being able to travel with it, so you can't really disagree with it too much, but you still could if you wanted to. Anyways, now desktops, it gets a little bit more tricky, and I'm going to get into the specifics for a laptop. I'm not leaving that conversation, don't worry, but at the end of the day, the specific specifications, the hardware specifications for a laptop and a desktop, we'll talk about those both at the same time. But I'm trying to help with the decision making behind getting a laptop versus getting a desktop. Now, if you want the more powerful machine, you don't need to move it, you don't need to be portable, then a desktop computer is for you. However, when purchasing a desktop computer, it never really ends with just one purchase. You need to get the mouse, the keyboard, the actual desktop, and then a monitor. Unless you're getting something that's like an all-in-one machine, you know, if you're getting an iMac, which comes with just a monitor and everything is in that monitor, really awesome. You don't need anything else. That is a good purchase, but they are quite costly because you are paying for that all-in-one feature. Now, if you want to save a lot of money and get a really powerful machine, then you can go ahead and start getting, you can either build your desktop, purchase an older desktop, purchase a newer desktop, anything of the above, but you're going to have to look into how many monitors you want, which monitors you want, cables to connect to these monitors, your mouse, your keyboard, your webcam even, if necessary, or your headset. Those are usually all the things that can go with a desktop, but you primarily are going to need, if you're not getting an all-in-one, is going to be the desktop itself, which is this beautiful beast that I have right there, the monitor, the keyboard, and the mouse. 4 pieces that you'll need. You don't even need a speaker because you may be able to get a monitor that has a speaker. Also something to write down in your list. You see, this is where the list starts to get really difficult. Before the other stuff that we were talking about, it's really easy to kind of like, you know, maneuver your way around and think about what you can and can't need, what you don't need and what you really need. But now it starts to get a little bit longer, because you may say that I want a monitor with speakers, but then you find out that a monitor with speakers may cost a little bit more than a monitor without speakers, and then getting some external speakers. But then again, you're also compensating on space. You know, if you want the monitors with the speakers, you're saving on all that space because you don't need to have speakers sitting around your desk. But that is also something that you need to outline in your use cases or your expectations of the device you're buying. So whenever buying a monitor, we're going to stick on the monitors now. You're going to want to look at the quality of the monitor. You know, what kind of output is it? Is it something that's going to give you 1080p? Is it something that's going to give you 4K, 2K? There's a bunch of different qualities, and of course the 2K is going to be better quality than 1080p, but you can just get a simple 1080p monitor. Most of them come stock like that, and you don't have to worry about getting some big expensive brand. You can get even like, you know, just an Insignia, a ViewSonic, anything along those lines, because it's just going to satisfy your needs. You just need to see it. If, however, you're using this to play video games and you really want that crazy quality as well as a no delay, because guys, guess what? There is not only delays when it comes to having wireless versus wired keyboards and mice, there is also delays with monitors. You know, it has to take time for the graphical processing unit, which we'll talk about possibly today, later. Oh jeez, I haven't breathed. My body's making me yawn because I'm just talking so much that I hadn't even taken a breath in some time. Let's breathe. Sorry about breathing in the mic there. But let's take a sip of water because I'm out of breath. I'm either extremely unfit or I'm getting excited about buying monitors. Alrighty then. So, yes, there are delays with monitors. If you're buying, you know, there's like a point. Some of them come with the second. There's like a 0.1 second delay of how long it takes for the computer itself to develop the screen or the changes. You know, like if you're watching a movie and, you know, someone's hand goes from left to right across the screen, the time it took for the computer to create that change that is being from the video is a little bit hard to understand, to conceptualize. But just imagine that there is a time it takes for the computer to actually make what you're seeing, for it to generate what you're trying to see. That usually is generated from the graphical processing unit, as you know, the graphical part of it. Whatever's calculating the graphics, making the graphics, there is a delay to how long it takes for that to reach the monitor. So if you don't really care too much, most monitors, standard monitors, you know, if you're just using this for work, then you don't need to consider that. A standard monitor will do just fine. It's nothing that you would notice. We're talking about 0.5 seconds or 0.3 seconds of a delay, nothing. Now, if you're interested in gaming and you want something extremely quick, you got to get the ones that are under 0.1 second delay, which are ridiculously expensive, but they do give you what you want. So it all depends on what list you have developed, you know. Whatever that list may be is what you're going to use to guide you with your purchasing. Now, once you've considered that, you then got to consider the cable that you're using. You know, if you're going to get a high quality monitor or just a lower quality monitor, you might as well go with an HDMI input. It is a better quality video cable, so it'll be able to give you a better visual output. You know, using an older cable such as a VGA cable that won't be able to utilize your monitor's full potential in quality. So that is the cables. Those are also important to purchase. Now, if when it comes to purchasing the computer itself, because we already went through the keyboards and we already went through the mice, but when you're thinking about purchasing the desktop, what it is, you got to consider quite a few more things. You got to consider the storage. You got to consider both the primary and the secondary storage. You got to consider the graphical processing unit. You got to consider the processor in it. You got to consider maybe even the motherboard. All of these things are the internal workings of the computer. Now, if you're using this for, you know, work, something basic, then a really good way to start is to pretty much do exactly what I did up here, just for something for you guys to see, was look up the best business computers of 2018, of the year that you have just went through. They will help you know what is being used, what a lot of people are using, and then you can start looking for that to compare to your list. But remember, develop the list. Do you want an extremely fast computer? You don't need to know all the details about what is the secondary storage, what is the primary storage, what is the processing power. You don't need to know that at the beginning. All you need to know is, do you need something to be extremely fast? Or do you need something to just work at a good rate? Nothing ridiculous, but yes, you like it fast, or you just don't care. If you have those three levels, then you can really decide what it is that you're going to expect from your computer. If you want it extremely fast, then yeah, you're going to have to look to get the best quality processor. Now, Intel is who makes a lot of the processors that are used today, and their most recent processor is the i9, which is like the 9th generation version of their processors. So it's going to be high quality. Now, that starts to get into cores and the number of cores and stuff like that, and I don't want to really get caught up in it because I don't have a lot of time to start if I start getting into all the specifics. But if you guys do want to know, just let me know and we can do a whole segment on processors for Intel, and we can look into that and see what's the difference between an i5 versus an i9. Now, if you want something that's just relatively fast and nothing too drastic, then you can get an i7, or an i5. An i5 even is something that I would say can work for you. Get an i5 processor, it will do justice. Now, if you just don't simply care, you could get an i3, but that's really pushing it for me. I would just, at this point in time, I would just start your basis as an i5. If you want something moderately fast, you can get an i7. If you want something ridiculously fast, get the newest version, being the i9 processor. Now, another big player when it comes to speed is your RAM, which can also be considered the secondary storage, or just the memory. You can consider it the memory, and you consider storage being like the actual stuff that stores all your files, while memory would be the RAM. Now, what the RAM does is whenever you load a program, I swear I'd be talking so fast that I just lose all my breath. I don't know, did I just jog like 15 hours before coming to work? Oh, geez. Guys, when you just talk and talk and talk, you really do lose your breath. It's ridiculous. But back to what I was saying. Now, how RAM works is, excuse me, when you open up a program or anything, your program, all your program's files and stuff that it's going to need in order to run are stored in RAM. RAM does not keep anything in it. As soon as you turn off your computer or close that program, that is removed from the RAM. Your primary storage is what holds everything your computer has. So when you open an application, everything that that application is going to use is transferred from your storage to your RAM. And then so that when your application needs to access something, it doesn't have to take as long for it to start pulling that information from the main storage, which would take much longer than just having it in the RAM so that it's at its fingertips and easier for it to grab. That delay, that latency can really take up a lot of time if we didn't have RAM. It would take so long for a computer to have to pull everything it needed from your primary storage. So that's why the RAM pretty much was conceptualized and developed, is so that we can hold all the memory and stuff that we need for our current applications that we're running, so that these applications can quickly pull that information from the RAM instead of having to go directly to the storage. So now, just like processors, there's a bunch of variations with RAM as well. There's DDR3, DDR4, DDR5. These are just the qualities of RAMs and pretty much just the upgrades that they made to RAM since the beginning of RAM. So, oh, that made me laugh. But yes, so you're going to want to look into storage too. You know, you can have, if you're developing a desktop, you can get multiple sticks of RAM. Primarily, I would say to start with at least 2 sticks of RAM, at least 8 gigs for a desktop, which would add up to 16 gigs of RAM. And that is pretty much a very fast. This computer, this beast that I have, has 16 gigs of DDR4. DDR4 RAM, which is ridiculously fast. You may be able to be okay with getting just one 8 gig of RAM, which will work just fine. Now, once you decided on that, that's going to make a big part of how fast an application works, which is really, you know, I like to say that the processor and the RAM are the real go-tos when you're trying to get that speed limit that you're trying to reach, because, you know, what we see most of the time that reflects slowness in our eyes is how fast a program is working, how fast a program opens. All of those things rely on the RAM and the processor. How fast a program operates is directly related to the RAM. So remember that when considering how much RAM you want to get. Do you want to be in a situation where you have to struggle with how long it takes for a program to work, or, you know, for you to save a file because your RAM is just too slow to even do the process of saving that file, writing that file to your storage, which is what it pretty much does when you select save. Yes. So I'm not going to stick too much on RAM, because RAM I can stick up on for quite some time. But continue. Next thing you're going to want to consider is your graphical processing unit. A lot of them, you don't need anything if you want something just basic. You don't want a crazy set of graphics. You're not doing a lot of heavy gaming, a lot of heavy audio, video and audio design. You do not need a crazy graphical processing unit. You can pretty much just get the basic Intel graphical processing unit. Nothing severe. You don't need to worry about all the crazy gaming ones like the 1060 Ti or 2060, 2070, all that kind of stuff, which may just sound like gibberish, but most of the time it really relates to gaming. So if you're not interested in that, or audio or video development, then you really just need something basic, and an Intel graphical processing unit would do just fine. Something basic, nothing too crazy. A lot of the time in computers that you're going to be getting, especially if it's for work, they're not even going to say what the graphical processing unit is. Probably just going to be the Intel integrated GPU, which is just a basic graphical processing unit, nothing severe, which is the way to go if you're not gaming or doing the video design. In addition to, so after that, you're going to want to look at your primary storage. So your primary storage is going to be what stores all of your files, which plays a part in speed as well. And that's why I like to say a solid state drive is way better than a hard disk drive, because solid state drives retrieve data much faster than a hard disk drive. Hard disk drives, as we talked about earlier, has moving parts. So it takes time for a machine, for the actual head in it to move and write and read, as a solid state drive would take much less time, because it requires, I'm pretty sure it uses just electric currents, pulses or whatever, to read and write, instead of actually having to hover over the sector and then read like how a hard disk drive works. So I always say take that list, but if you want that nice quality, just go with a solid state drive. It's just overall better, but it does cost more money. But the beauty of it is you can get a little bit smaller of a dedicated space than a hard disk drive, and it will go much further than you expect. So I like to say, basically, don't go anything below 256 gigs. That's my personal preference. You can, but I personally like 500 gigs as my starting point, but that just depends on your personal preference and how much data you really use or how much data you really need to store. But after those things are considered, you're pretty much in the realm of purchasing your desktop computer. Once you've written that list of what you want, what are you expecting? Are you expecting extreme speed? Are you expecting it just to work at work? Or are you just, don't really care? Are you nonchalant? In that case, you may not even make the list and just buy out any desktop computer that you first see. Now we're going to get into creating a laptop, purchasing a laptop. We said we're going to get back to it. Now, I talk too fast. I swear I yawn all the time because I'm just running out of oxygen. My body is just like, inhale. Breathe, Logan, breathe. But yes, laptops come into the portable aspect. Do you need something to be portable? Then a laptop is the way for you to go, or a tablet. But all the things that we just considered, with the RAM, with the storage, with the processor, are all things that you're going to consider in your laptop. You would want to start with a basis of an i5 processor. If you want something super fast, you can look into getting an i9, which is going to be extremely expensive on a laptop, but still doable. If you're interested in, having a big set of storage, or primary storage, then yes, you're going to start with a 256 or even a 500 or even a crazy amount like a 1 terabyte, which I wouldn't expect anybody to do, but people do it regardless. Next is how much RAM you're going to have it, similar to what we talked about. 8 gigs is usually satisfactory for a laptop, in my personal opinion, but you can go and get 16. They even have some cases now where you can have 64 gigs, which is just ridiculous and useless and pointless. Please don't buy anything with 64 gigs of RAM. It will deteriorate within a year or two. It's just, you're putting too much pressure under it. It will fizzle out and die. The hardware has life expectancies, guys. It's not as simple as software. Software only has a life expectancy based off of the people that are using it. Hardware deteriorates regardless. It's just anything we use. You build a house, 10 years from now that house will deteriorate. It's just the way it works. It's the way the cookie crumbles. I'm on my Jim Carrey vibes today. Alrighty then. So like, if you guys couldn't tell, I'm happy it's Friday. That's pretty much the truth of that. But yeah, so those are all these same things you're going to want to consider, but the primary decision is going to be between if you need something portable or if you don't need something portable. Now, the RAM, we talked about that. What else? you don't really need to consider too much about the visuals of it. Most of the time they'll let you know what kind of visuals. If you want something really great quality, you can get like a retina display. You could just get a basic 1080p display. Most of the time it depends on exactly what your list says. Do you want something super high quality, or do you just want something to do work? That is what you need to know. And the best way to develop that is, what are you using it for? Are you using it to do audio development? Are you using it to do video development? Are you using it to create video games, to write code, to develop code, are you just using it for work and writing emails? Those kind of things in your list are going to help depict what you truly need. If you're just writing emails and using Word, you do not need a beast of a computer. You can get by with a basic i5, 6 gigs of RAM, or even like 4 gigs of RAM, 156 gigs of data of storage, and you're good as gold. You don't need much more than that. But if you want something that your use cases say that you need something crazy fast, then you're gonna have to start upgrading to the bigger and better laptops. It's just simple as that, and it's going to cost you. But yes, I need to go use the washroom, so I'm gonna be right back. You know, all this talking and then guzzling down this water takes a toll, but I'll be right back. Okay, thank you guys for being patient. But yes, so that's pretty much what we had to talk about today. You know, it all comes down, I'm just going to recap. It all really comes down to what your use cases are and what you're expecting from anything. And to never shy away from your expectations and your use cases because of price. You will spend a lot more money in the long run from spending less on something that doesn't satisfy what you need. It's pretty much as simple as that. It will last you maybe 5-6 months. It may last you a year, but then you're gonna have to replace it instead of just making that bigger purchase to last you the 2-3 years that you need. Or with a great desktop, maybe even 5-6 years. You don't know, but it's your money you put into it is exactly what you're gonna get out of it. So develop that use cases, guys. Develop those expectations, and you will get the product that works best for you. I promise you, if you follow those guidelines, you will get the best hardware product that works for you. But we actually have staff meeting at 3 o'clock. So I'm going to do a pretty fun thing today. I'm going to go through some of our topics that we will be discussing next week. We're going to actually go through and see what we can get. So let's look at that. Let's see the topics that we have and let's pick them. Well, we need to edit. What did I just do? So for Monday, let's look at these topics now. I'm going to start picking them out. So we talked about security and privacy and security. I want to talk about improving your privacy and your security. I'm going to talk about it again because, guys, it's such an important thing. So I'm going to do that on Tuesday. I want to do a full Microsoft Teams demo. That may be cool. Have an idea for an app or website. Find out how you can go about developing it. And a lot of people have ideas as to what they think they can do, but they just don't know that they really can find a way how to do it. So benefits of cloud storage. Learn how to be mobile. Okay, so let's actually look at this. Oh no, I just did that again. What can you do? Okay, guys, so I just developed that. I'm gonna send that to our marketing director so she can develop the schedule for next week. So when she sends out our email that you guys would have received on Monday, so that it has all the info that you'll need to know about what is going on throughout the week. Alrighty. Oh man, you're catching me right before I leave, man. Pineapple. We gotta end it early today. Got staff meeting at 3 o'clock, so cutting it a little bit early because I gotta do some stuff before I go in there. Well, that is disappointing, man. I literally was speaking with my cousin because we were looking for some people to make some logos, and I was like, wow, man. I told him we found my boy found somebody for $15 that was gonna do some cheap logos, but seems like it was too good to be true after all. But do keep me in the loop if you find any more, bro, because I am interested in getting some things developed, you know. But yeah, keep me in the loop. I gotta end my stream early, man. You really jumped in a little bit late, but you know, or maybe I'm just start ending early. I don't know, either one. Anyways, I do appreciate you jumping in, man, but I gotta head out. Gotta go get ready for our staff meeting. Tune in on Monday, and I actually will shout you this weekend on Steam so I can get more of your more of that info if you do find anybody else to do the logos. Oh, the cousin don't play any video games, man. He used to play a lot of video games. He's a developer now for blockchain technology, so he does a lot of programming, but it's nothing with video games. Video games are something that we used to do a lot of, man, but we don't really play too much of them anymore. It's disappointing, but it consumed a lot of us, so now we're just more into figuring out ways to develop money, you know, get that faucet income over a bucket income. That's our goal. But I'll add you on, well, I already have you added on my Steam. I'll send you my private Discord on Steam when I get home or throughout the weekend. But yeah, man, sorry I gotta rush out. I want to stay and talk some more, but I gotta go and do some stuff before staff meeting. Thank you for jumping in, though. I do appreciate it. You're always a good supporter, man. I appreciate it a lot. Trust me, it make me smile, so I do appreciate it. But anyways, I gotta go now, so I'll see y'all on Monday. So look out for that email that you'll be receiving. Anyways, as always, peace.